Hello, and welcome back to the podcast that must not be named. I'm Luke.
I'm Melissa.
And we are doing Chapter 15, The Forbidden Forest. This chapter is 20 pages, which is 6.47% of the book. Melissa, what do you got?
So after being caught by Filch while roaming the school at night, Harry and Hermione were sent to McGonagall's office, where they were soon joined by none other than Neville. McGonagall assumes they were out of bed tricking Malfoy, and Neville heard about it and, while trying to warn them, got caught also. A severe tongue lashing ensues, where each student lost 50 points for their team. The 150-point loss made Harry a pariah at school, where everyone, even Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, were disappointed that Gryffindor wouldn't beat Slytherin this year. Harry decided to stay out of anyone else's business and keep his head down. Easy to do, with even the Quidditch team referring to him only as the Seeker. Even though Harry heard Quirrell sobbing, he was determined not to get involved, even though he knew Snape must have just left that same room where Quirrell was whining. Harry, Hermione, and Neville were given detentions at 11 p.m. for their incident, and it turns out that Malfoy was serving with them. The four kids were marched across the grounds, being lectured by Filch all the way. At first, Harry was relieved to see that the detention would be with Hagrid, but they all got worried when they found out it included a trip into the Forbidden Forest. Their assignment was to find an injured unicorn. Malfoy quickly decides to pair up with Fang, and Hagrid puts Neville with him. So Harry and Hermione search with Hagrid, where they hear something slithering in the forest, and then meet some centaurs. Hagrid tries to ask the centaurs if they had seen anything unusual in the forest, but only gets some obscure answers about Mars being bright. When they see a red spark warning, Hagrid rushes off to save Neville and Malfoy, who, it turns out, had snuck up and scared Neville, causing Neville to send up the sparks. The groups are shuffled around then, and Harry ends up traveling with Malfoy and Fang. The boys eventually find the unicorn, but it was already dead. Suddenly, a hooded figure came out of the shadows and started to drink the unicorn's blood. Fang and Malfoy fled in terror while the hooded figure looked at Harry, causing blinding pain in Harry's head. Before the figure could get him, a centaur named Firenze jumps out and chased off the figure. Firenze then had Harry right on his back, which upset the other centaurs who appeared and accused Firenze of involving himself in human business. Firenze runs off angry, with Harry still on his back. And through their conversation, Harry learns that drinking unicorn blood will extend your life, but it will be a cursed life. Firenze also asks if Harry knows about the Sorcerer's Stone that is hidden in the school, and suggests that only one person would want to use it to have eternal life, and that would be Voldemort. Hagrid and the others appear then, checking to see if Harry is all right, and Firenze leaves. The kids return to the castle, and Harry wakes up Ron to tell both Ron and Hermione about what he learned. As the sun starts to rise, Harry finally goes to bed, but finds one more surprise: his invisibility cloak under his sheets, and a note that says, "Just in case."
All right. Good chapter.
Yes, better than the last one.
Going to the forest is kind of interesting.
Yes.
In this chapter, we had a few new characters that we met. All three are centaurs. We've got Bane and Ronan and Firenze. Or Firenze. I've always said Firenze in my head.
Oh, I've always said Firenze. It might be Firenze. Maybe I said it wrong in my whole summary.
No, I think more people probably say it that way. It's just one of those.
I don't know.
I've never said the E, but yeah.
I could be wrong. I tend to have a mispronunciation problem when reading in my head. So.
And it kind of like we talked about before, I mean, it doesn't really matter. As long as you know who that character is and you're consistent.
True.
The nature of the character is what really matters.
Yes.
We didn't really have any new locations introduced here. We've been near the forest before.
And Harry's gone into it.
I
checked. I was like, oh, this is a really deep, in-depth visit.
But
he's
been
there.
in there before.
Mm-hmm.
There's also an empty classroom.
Random classroom.
Who knows? I mean, other than that, really nothing.
No.
Did you see any magicabulary in this chapter?
The only thing that's really new for us is unicorn blood.
Sure.
Because we specifically learn about what it is and what it's used for, as opposed to dragon's blood, which we still don't know what it's used for.
It's got a lot of uses, though. Let's be clear on that.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
We just don't know them. Whereas we know what unicorn blood is used for, and nobody uses it.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
That'd be wrong.
I think centaur would be a new magicabulary.
Yeah.
And also unicorn as well. I don't know if we've...
I feel like unicorns are pretty prevalent.
They're very well known.
Yes.
But we've included a couple of things that are pretty well known.
Okay.
But
all right, I'll give you those. Some creatures or character type species.
all right. So for your in-depth analysis notes, what else did you come up with?
All right, so I started by wondering, when they first meet the centaurs and Ronan asks the kids, do you learn much up at the school? And Hermione tells Ronan that they learn a bit at the school. If Hermione has only learned a bit, how very little is everybody else learning?
Yeah, a scotch.
Not even a tad.
Yeah, I think Hermione's just being modest.
Or nervous.
And it's coming across as that. But, yeah, I mean, I think... It's actually kind of interesting that you asked that, because there's a lot of psychological studies in the fact that the more intelligent you are, the more you realize you don't know.
I agree with that.
And so she realizes she doesn't know a whole lot. But if you ask somebody who is doing okay in the classes,
right,
and really isn't at her level, they're going to say, yeah, we learn a lot. Right. Because they're learning a lot.
And she's learning a lot, but she's realizing that the more she learns,
the deeper it gets.
Right. The more, even though I know a lot now, it's nothing compared to what I don't know.
Yeah. So it's...
Maybe.
I think that's not really what she's saying.
But I like your answer a lot
But
better.
It definitely applies to her specifically.
Yes. All right. So my next thought is, Bane really hates humans. He's got a thing.
And...
Bane hates humans like Malfoy hates Harry.
Yeah, it's almost like he's...
Or even worse, Bane hates humans like the Dursleys hate Harry. That's my analogy. I can take my SAT now.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I agree. And,
yes. And we haven't mentioned the Dursleys in a while. I feel like I need to
It was worth it. It's been a few chapters.
Yes.
I think since Christmas with the socks.
Yes. It's been a while.
But, yeah, he's definitely got some kind of bias or prejudice that... We just don't know what his background experience with humans has been. So maybe he might be justified in his own, his own personal experiences.
I find it very interesting that J.K. Rowling would put a character or a species of characters really in with that level of disdain for humans with absolutely no backstory or explanation. It's just what it is. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious whether she did that on purpose as hey, this is something to really show that this is a real world and there's a lot more stuff going on and it's deeper, or if she just did that because it was just a character choice for him and people can read into it as they want.
I think a little bit of both. I think it plays an interesting... It definitely plays an interesting part in showing depth in the world that, hey, there is a lot of wizarding history, or, wizarding world, magical world history. That's probably the more PC way of saying it, magical world history, that even the children don't know. Like Hermione's good or whatever, but she seems to be, unaware of any, ill feelings between centaurs and humans.
Well, I think that's the same thing now. Like, kids today don't always know sort of the grown-up landscape of the view of the world of a lot of things because we protect a lot of them, or they don't need to know that because they're 10 and 11 and 12.
And I think it also plays an interesting part in showing people who have never been discriminated against what that would feel like with no reason behind it.
True.
When Harry, Hermione, and Ron, and Hagrid and Neville have probably never done anything to the centaurs to warrant this kind of attitude.
Right.
And so it's eye-opening for them, and any reader that's never been through that either it gets that feeling of
True.
what being put on the spot like that
Okay.
feels like. So I think it's another interesting
That
social
uncomfortable.
injustice that she's been able to work into the story
Okay.
that we haven't really seen in a little while. But
Right.
she does a pretty good job on that. And this one, it takes someone, it puts you in a position that you've never been before if you haven't seen that. It's eye opening.
All right. So we've really been on this whole Malfoy is kind of a moron phase, or Malfoy has issues. 2 chapters ago, we talked about how he must not have very many friends because he's spending all his time sort of being obsessed with Harry and Ron and Hermione and going out of his way to sort of pick on them. And
Right.
the last chapter, the last episode, we really talked about how annoying he is with
Maybe stalker-ish. even.
stalker-ish. This chapter, I'm going to add to the list of things. He's a coward.
Yeah. He's all talk.
He is all talk, and his talk isn't even that great. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't just how cowardly and runs away and tries to. I don't know. He doesn't have. There's no Gryffindor in that boy.
No,
None.
he seems pretty delusional about his own
Yes,
skills and
abilities.
and abilities and bearing in,
Yeah.
in real situations. And I
Because when
think
you put him in the situation when he is finally confronted by that hooded figure, he's the one who turns and runs.
yeah, and yes, there are natural, talents that people have and everything.
Right.
I think this is another taught type,
Okay.
response, and it just doesn't seem like his parents prepared him for anything that wasn't going to go his way.
Okay.
And the first time he sees something that seriously isn't going his way, he bounces.
Right. He's out.
He just can't handle it.
Yep.
So it's self-preservation and don't help anyone around you.
Exactly.
Shows a lot about his character.
Which isn't a very good thing to see.
You're right.
My last thought is there is quite the benefit to creating your own fantasy world that you can make unicorn blood be any color you want. In this case, it's silvery blue. But it's so hard for my brain to see that silvery blue because it's blood. Blood is red. And I'm pretty sure that in most animals, like in the sort of real world, their blood is red, correct? I mean, am I wrong in that? Or am I just
Well, I
not
mean, your
informed
blood
enough?
is actually blue until it touches oxygen, and then it. I mean, but
This is blood. This is blood that's sitting out in the air. So one would assume it's been oxygenated.
I'm not a biology expert, but I do think there are other animals that have different chemical compositions in their blood. They have different types of hemoglobin and things like that that react to oxygen differently and turn blue or whatever, purple or whatever. I don't completely quote me on that, but I think there are instances where that happens. I don't know. It doesn't throw me off at all seeing it silver. I don't know. I've never had. I don't know. Visualizing that's never been throwing me off that a unicorn bleeds silver. Like that kind of always. To me, it almost just looks like liquid mercury. Or
Okay, I'm looking up the different colors
just
of blood.
I don't know. That's what I've always
Me too,
pictured.
but I don't know. Although, okay, so here's what I found. Humans and most vertebrates have red blood. Beetles, sea squirts, and sea cucumbers have yellow blood.
Yeah, I've squished a lot of bugs and it's been different colors.
Leeches, marine worms, segmented worms are green. Spiders, crustaceans, octopuses, squids, and some mollusks are blue.
Blue. Okay.
And other types of marine worms, peanut worms, and penis worms are purple.
Okay. Yeah. So I kind of thought so. So there are a lot of different, but
There
when you think of a unicorn, you think of a horse, which is a normal vertebrate animal.
That's my point.
Mammal.
It's
so
a
like that.
mammal.
That is.
Yes.
I can see that.
Right. I mean, I'm not talking about an octopus in an ocean. It's,
Or a beetle.
four-legged vertebrae covered in hair mammal.
And probably like one singular horn on his forehead or something like that. But
Well, it's a unicorn, not a bicorn.
right, or even a tricorn.
Right. Oh.
No quadricorns. This is
No,
no
we're not even there.
quadricorn territory. I'm going to be prejudiced and close the door on quadricorns.
They only get unicorns. They only get one.
So for my notes, when did the kids learn to shoot up colored sparks? We've never heard them using it before, and it's like he just assumes they can do that. So Hagrid knows the syllabus that they've been studying. I don't know.
I feel like it's been a while since I've read the chapter in Diagon Alley, but didn't his wand shoot sparks when he
Yeah,
first picked it up?
gold sparks or red sparks,
Okay.
but he didn't choose to do that.
No.
That was more, to me, that was always more the wand doing that itself, saying, yeah, there's my guy.
I mean, I agree with that, but I think that shows that spark shooting is a very basic skill. So I wonder if that's like sort of the first step in charms, maybe. You know, like they learned how to make things float at Halloween.
Yeah, that was okay. So
So
that was
you've got-
several weeks in.
Yeah, I mean, it's 8 weeks of learning before that. Maybe it is shooting sparks.
Okay. No, that's fair.
I mean, that's where I would teach it, probably would be charms.
Yeah, it fits in charms for sure.
Yeah. And I think
I'd say
that's
so.
it's probably like the very first thing you learn because it's probably really easy. A lot of kids will feel really successful doing it.
I bet there's a preliminary first lesson wand safety. Just
Where not to point your wand.
yeah,
How not to-
don't keep it in your back pocket.
That would be bad.
Yeah. But oh, that's
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay. Do any other students ever hear random large plot driving instances ever? It's only Harry ever. Like
Yeah.
does he just
No,
not ever hear about
It's
this?
not like, George is like, hey, I overheard blah, blah,
This was
blah.
weird.
And then Harry acts upon it. No,
No.
it's just Harry.
And he always gets first source experiences. Like he's not
Yes.
he's never hearing hearsay.
No.
It's always him that hears it.
Always.
Thoughts on that?
No, I don't, because I mean, honestly, I really just think it's a plot device by the author to move the story about her chosen or protagonist. That's, I mean, I can't even make up a reason. I can't even pretend that there's a reason where somewhere in this world there's a reason he hears everything and nobody else hears anything ever.
Yeah.
I can't even do it.
I think it is just because
It's a Harry-centric-
it's his name on the
Yes.
book, and it's his viewpoint that we have 95% of the time. Sometimes it changes, but this is not a real world. You know,
No.
it's not supposed to be.
Right.
This is really happening. This is a story.
And I also wonder, like, this is the first book she ever wrote. I wonder how much of that is just first-time author kinds of things, and I wonder if that'll change as we continue through the series, or even because I've read a lot of her other works that she's written for adults, and that doesn't stand out to me as much as it does, especially here in this first book.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is more of a first book, maybe even first couple books. that kind of do this.
We'll have to watch
and
that.
and we'll keep an eye on it.
Yep.
So Mars is bright tonight.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Other than it's close to the Earth and they're like traveling in their paths around the sun near each other.
Are you asking like
I don't know.
astrologically?
I'm-
What does it actually mean?
In
Or-
general, like it's very random. And
Yeah.
I feel like I almost want to say, like, I wonder if she put that in there for a reason or if it's just something that's there. I don't know.
Well,
What do you got?
so Mars is the Greek god of war, and
Oh, you went there. Okay. I see where you're going. Go
so
ahead.
that's, I think, a lot of what this is alluding to. All of the stars, or all of the planets in our solar system, are named after Roman or Greek gods, and there's a lot of mythology built up around that with the constellations and everything, and the planets have a part in that as well. And with Mars being the god of war, it almost seems like some kind of war is going to be starting soon, or some kind of conflict is going to be starting soon or happen soon. And it just seems like foreshadowing, and I don't know, it's just interesting that the centaurs pick up on that, and to them that's the only thing that they can respond. And anytime they're asked a direct question on, hey, what do you think about this? Have you seen anything funny lately? Their response pretty much is an analogy for there's a big conflict coming. What you're
Or a
saying,
metaphor.
yeah.
Got it.
So that's how I see it.
Okay.
And actually, Mars is bright tonight, the night that we're recording this. It's also supermoon, but yeah.
It's also November and we're 6 months ahead of
I know.
schedule, but it's fine.
I know. But
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, that moon is huge.
yeah.
All right.
Along with that, centaurs sound very peculiar, but also pretty intelligent.
They would drive me nuts, though.
Why?
I'm a math teacher. I like logical, sequential, organized, data-proven answers. I like answers. Mm-hmm. I don't even care how you get the right answer, but you got to have an answer. And Mars is Bright Tonight does not answer the question. Not in like my... I want to know what's next, what's coming, what do you see, what do you observe? Not what's going on in the night sky and how could that... No, just what's going on. It would drive me crazy.
Yeah, you're such a human.
I'm such a... I'm not a big, broad, like, big scope, dreamy. I'm not. Yeah. I'm very grounded with a lot of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. How about you?
I find them interesting. Maybe spend a little time with them. It'd probably get annoying.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those, if you can start understanding where they're coming from, I bet they have a lot to offer.
It'd take a lot of work to get there, though, and I don't have patience. I'll let you do that. You're more meta than me.
After my wand internship and my study of dragon's blood.
There you go. There you go.
I'll just fit that in my wizarding schedule.
Put that in there.
Who do you think brought the invisibility cloak back at the end of the chapter?
The only person around was McGonagall. So I'm going to assume...
Or Filch.
Yeah.
Filch was right there. Just saying.
Was. I would still say... Filch wouldn't give it back. Filch would keep it. I mean...
Confiscate it.
Yeah. Block it up. I think... the only person I can think of right now is McGonagall.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't either.
That or whoever gave it to him in the first place. Who we don't know.
No idea.
So that's all I got.
All right.
Melissa, let's get to your 5 burning questions.
Okay. And I apologize in advance for my first question because this is such a teacher question. Just like this is a teacher mom question. This is not a thing I would have ever thought of as a kid. How can a school have a policy where it's okay for students to do detention from midnight to dawn and the only chaperone is carrying a crossbow? I feel like there's some safety concerns.
Yeah, I will say whenever I first started reading these books, I definitely questioned if I stay up all night, I'm tired.
Right.
And I'm not as good at school the next day.
Right. Do they have class the next day?
We don't.
Or is it like a Friday? And
I don't know if we know what day of the week it is.
I don't know.
Or no, it says it was like Thursday afternoon that they get the letter and they say it just says about a week before the exams were due to start. Blah, blah, blah. Harry overhears quarrel with Snape. And then it says the following morning. So we don't know what day of the week it was.
I just assumed it was a Friday because I don't think good conscious teachers would give a detention on a Thursday night and then expect the kids to go to school the next day. So a Friday night, I assumed Friday because it said they gave it to them in the morning. I assumed at breakfast before school.
At the breakfast table.
Right. You wouldn't do that on a weekend necessarily like that.
Okay. So we'll say that happened on Friday morning that they got the letter. Friday night at 11 p.m., they went out and did their detention all night.
That sounds good.
Yeah, but still, that sounds pretty irresponsible. Or I don't know, maybe that really is the only time for the task that they're being asked to do is, going to be possibly productive. I don't know.
Okay.
It still seems weird.
All right. So my next question, which kind of goes along with that same thing. Does anyone think it was a good idea to send Neville and Malfoy alone together into the forest without any adult supervision?
Nope.
How is that even a thing?
I don't know. That's Hagrid's in charge.
Even still, if you really want to keep Harry with you because you're Hagrid and you've got a loving Harry problem, then you send Hermione with Malfoy. Or you send Hermione and Neville together. Maybe. And you keep Malfoy with you and Harry. I mean, I get it.
To me, that's the most logical way of doing it. Hermione can take care of Neville.
True.
And that's not going to be weird because they're already friends.
Right.
And 3, Hagrid can keep an eye on Malfoy.
And 4, the author is not going to have anything happen to Hermione and Neville. It's going to happen to Harry anyway, as we just discussed. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems he just, again, JK just wanted Hagrid and Harry to have a quick little conversation and for Malfoy to show some more true colors.
Yep.
So.
Yay. All right. How does Firenze know about the Sorcerer's Stone? He says to Harry, do you know it's hidden up in the school right now? How does he know?
I think the centaurs know a lot of things. I don't think there's like a magical creatures around Hogwarts newsletter that goes around that Fluffy writes or whatever, but that'd be interesting, but I don't think that happens.
Well, that's funny.
But I don't know. I think it seems like the centaurs really know a lot, and we're going to have a hard time getting it out of them, for one.
I wonder, does Dumbledore have like a powwow with their leaders and say, hey, these are the things that are going on, just as a heads up, keep an eye out.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I always assumed, but I like the newsletter. That's funny.
Yeah, the Magical Creatures newsletter.
Yep.
I like Fluffy writing it, too.
Yeah. Well,
He's got nothing else to do.
But it depends on which head, is in charge.
Well, maybe they just can type all day.
Maybe.
Take turns.
True. All right. You sort of have mentioned this, but my next question is, what do the centaurs think is foretold by Mars being bright?
I think they believe it means blood. It's some kind of dangerous conflict or war or something is going to be happening. And to them, that's the most concise way of saying what they think is going to happen. And we just aren't good at interpreting it,
Okay.
Because to them, they can't. It's almost like they're forbidden from giving a direct answer.
I wonder why that is.
For them, a direct answer is just read the sky like we read it, and it's clear.
Right.
So they have a completely different way of thinking. They have a completely different set of assumptions that to them, that's like as plain as it can be.
Right.
So
it's just a different way of processing information.
Exactly. Okay. It's like they're trying.
Yeah.
But they just can't.
Okay. Using the same words but speaking different languages.
Very much.
Okay. Last question. Just in case. Of what? What are we hoping we would need a invisibility cloak for? What sort of emergency could come of it? And who thinks that something might happen to Harry that he's going to need it for something?
He's already needed it a couple times. I mean, mostly by his own choice.
Well, right. Like, is it, oh, Harry, you keep getting into trouble. Let me give you this so you can, try not to get expelled.
Yeah, I don't know. This seems like a lot's being set up in this chapter. There's a lot of things being. I mean, he's getting his cloak back, even though he just lost it.
And deservedly so.
Yeah, it seems like the centaurs are very aware of something going to happen.
Right. There was definitely some knowledge being shared with Firenze after he rescued Harry from the creature thing.
They understand that, Voldemort's the only one that'd be interested in doing the things that Harry saw tonight. Right. It seems like things are really about to start coming to a head. So Harry's going to need some kind of protection to help him get through it, whatever's coming up. So for our chapter superlatives, what was your favorite line of this chapter?
Well, as our friends were being taken outside by Filch has quite the rant, sort of lecturing them. But my favorite part is when Filch says, "It's just a pity they let the old punishments die out. Hang you by your wrists from the ceiling for a few days. I've got the chains still in my office. Keep 'em well oiled in case they're ever needed."
What a dirtbag.
He's good at what he does.
Yeah.
And he is well prepared.
Yeah, and, for that, I'll give him credit.
There you go. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, no, that's pretty funny. Keep him well oiled.
Well, it's more like he's wistfully saying, oh, remember the good old days where we'd hang people by their toenails and put people on the rack?
Can't we just torture him a little bit?
Right. Can
we just a wee bit of torture?
Can I just chain them up a little? Come on.
Yeah.
They're all oiled, ready
Right.
to go.
You're not going to put me out by asking me to do it.
I mean, if you need me to, I'm here.
Right. Anything you need torture-wise, I'm your guy. Just,
I got you
Just
covered.
say the word.
Yes.
All right. My favorite line in this chapter was, "I want Fang," said Malfoy quickly, looking at Fang's long teeth. "All right, but I warn you, he's a coward," said Hagrid. It's just it puts Malfoy in a looking dumb kind of spot again. You know, he tries to play the smart card, and he's an idiot.
Yes.
And it's almost like, "I warn you, he's a coward." I wonder if he was talking to Fang about Malfoy.
Huh. I always assumed Fang.
No,
But, yeah, it could be. I mean,
yeah,
really, it's like,
I don't
well,
know.
you're
That's
a
the first time
coward,
I've ever thought that. But
Yeah.
I mean,
like a little dig on Malfoy, like,
Yeah.
okay, fine.
all right, Fang, just be aware, he's a coward. It's kind of funny way to think about it. Okay, who was your chapter MVP?
I have to go with Ferenzi, however you say it. I really think one, is the reason Harry's not dead in this chapter. I would assume that creature guy was definitely not looking out for Harry's best interest.
Yeah,
So,
it didn't seem like it was going to be a positive interaction.
yeah. So we're going to go with good job saving his life. But I also think he had some really interesting information that we didn't know before, particularly about making the connection to Voldemort.
Yeah, and that he was pretty clear on. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Well, in general, I feel like he's way more clear than the other centaurs are being. And I also really appreciate how he sort of defends humans.
yeah,
So, like,
he kind of
compared to-
bridges that gap.
yes, like, it's definitely like a character's strength that he can go see both sides.
That kind of brings me back to what we were just talking about real quick on, like the centaurs, maybe they are kind of being like trying to pull a superiority complex on the humans too.
Oh, Bane is.
Right. And
For
so like
sure.
that's kind of the way I was thinking about it. Like the way I was thinking about it wasn't taking that into account, but I was thinking about the interaction with Bane for the most part. But Ferenz definitely kind of changes that a little bit. So, but he seems like an atypical
Right.
centaur overall. So it might just be that Bane and or Ronan were more, anti-human, and they're just saying, well, if you don't understand me, that's your fault.
Right.
So
Right.
they weren't really trying to just
Be helpful. Or...
yeah, I don't know. It's
Yep.
yeah, okay.
All right. Who is your honorable mention?
So my honorable mention on this chapter is going to be Hagrid. He's gotten several of these, but
Yes.
in the chapter, really no one else did a whole lot worth
No one else stands out.
honorably mentioning. So
Good job not getting the kids killed in the forest.
yeah, pretty much. Even though I don't agree with his sending Neville and Malfoy out together thing,
Right.
he probably should have kept the whole group together is what I really think. But just because, are they really going to find anything? Come on. Keep
I'm
the whole
going with
group.
11-year-olds by themselves in the middle of a forest with things that are attacking and killing unicorns
They'll be fine on by themselves.
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, no,
Again, too much of a mom. I'm
so
sorry.
that's a pretty big point against him. But
Yeah.
he did keep him alive.
Yes. And he defended them against Filch,
Yeah, that's true. He gets a dig on Filch pretty well.
which I like.
Yeah, I forgot about that part. That was a pretty good spot for him.
All right. Okay, listeners, we appreciate you traveling back with us from the Forbidden Forest. Next week, we will be hitting our 5-chapter recap where we hit 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 again and open up that unrestricted section to make connections to future parts in this book as we get closer to the end and connections to the other books in the series. If you are joining us for that and have read the stories in the past, we will see you in 1 week. If you are reading through this book for the first time, we do recommend that you skip the unrestricted section and join us in 2 weeks when we discuss chapter number 16.
Through the Trap Door.
In the meanwhile, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter at NotNamedPodcast, online at thepodcastthat.com, or through email, thepodcastthatmustnotbenamed@gmail.com. As always, we appreciate you listening to us ramble as we go in and out of the forest and other various places in our Harry Potter musings. We'll see you in a week. Thanks.